Hello there. How's your week? Mine's great. I hope yours is too. So listen, I had the opportunity to sit down with Nick McWhirter of SHM Architects to explore the nuances of transitional design, the delicate dance between modern and traditional elements, and the intentionality behind every architectural choice. From furniture driven layouts to aspirational lighting strategies, Nick shares the thought process, research, and we discuss philosophy that transform houses into harmonious living machines. You are going to gain some insight into how design, balance, and playfulness converge to create both beauty and functionality in contemporary residential architecture. Amazing. You're also going to hear about what it takes to make a home truly exceptional. And it isn't just the materials or the finishes. It's a careful orchestration of space, light, and style. In this episode, Nick breaks down his approach to transitional design, revealing how subtle choices like shutter placement, dormer adjustments, or color balance can shift a home's aesthetic from modern to traditional to transitional. The conversation spans everything from lighting plans to hidden technology to furniture first design principles and the philosophy behind architecture as a living, breathing machine. Of course, that idea comes from Le Corbusier and his thoughts on this very subject, but we dive deeper into it because it's a philosophy I subscribe to, and I think many do. We also discuss the role of photography, the tension between realism and aspirational imagery, and the evolving vernacular of form and function in modern homes. This episode is a masterclass in thoughtful, intentional, and style agnostic design. I hope you enjoy it because you're going to hear all about it right after this. At the highest level of design, the absolute best specifying designers, architects, landscape designers are all highly focused on the technology and performance of products and materials today. You have to, because the products you specify for your projects have to perform and they have to last. That's one of the reasons why I am so proud to be working with TimberTech. Their focus on the technical renaissance of synthetic decking is literally changing the conversation about innovation and performance. It pulls focus on three priorities homeowners have and expect from the products their designers and architects specify for their luxury projects. 1. Aesthetics must match the overall design and fit visually. 2. Durability and maintenance. I've told you about my board flipping stories from my own wood decks. Clients not only want beauty, but they want ease of use, and they want it to last for decades. 3. Sustainably made. Clients are more conscious of the environment now, and they want the same of their materials. TimberTech hits each one of these elements with a product that not only meets expectations, they exceed them. TimberTech makes a synthetic decking that looks just like wood, color and embossed wood grain for a natural appearance. Their composite decking is technologically superior, as it has been created to last for decades, and it's manufactured with up to 85% recycled material. Their advanced PVC, vintage, and landmark collections have a Class A flame spread rating, making these products an amazing choice for wildfire-prone areas, which unfortunately continues to grow on the risk map. Check the show notes for more information about this and to find the nearest showroom or lumberyard where you can find TimberTech, or you can check them out directly, timbertech.com. Tell me about the state of design and architecture. I want to start in North Texas because I believe that's where you're based, and then I want to emanate out. Tell me about Texas in general, North Texas in particular, as in the last 3 to 5 years of design.
Sure. I think our focus is the same. I think what we've noticed is our audience, our target market, is more design savvy than they used to be. There's so much more information for people to gather and be exposed to and be kind of the algorithms have figured people out and what they're looking for. I think I always joke that it seems like our clients, as soon as social media algorithms figure out they're gonna thinking about either hiring an architect or looking at a designer or even thinking about a house in general, it figures that out really quickly and starts showing them amazing, beautiful things to kind of the level of almost being overwhelmed by it. And so I think that's been a huge difference in just the amount of visual vocabulary that people come to us with. And back in when I first started doing this, people would come with a, a three-ring binder with the plastic sleeves with magazine pages torn out and like it looked like a scrapbook of ideas that they would bring to us. And now it's this, it's a Pinterest board or it's a lookbook that they've created. And I mean, I actually love that. I love when people do their homework. But boy, that I think that the level of access that people have to images of beautiful stuff has been the biggest change that I've seen in just the market and their awareness of design.
Isn't it interesting? And I find it fascinating that description because I totally agree. What's interesting though is the industry is changing so rapidly, and it's hard to recognize the changes because it's happening so quickly.
Mhm.
And where we are now, I think is truly fascinating. You talk about the algorithm. I feel like, and I want your take on this, that life has become an endless series of algos uh, when you're on social media. Now, isn't it crazy? You could be talking to somebody about the Dallas Cowboys, and all of a sudden in your feed, you're starting to get all this Micah Parsons Cowboys news. Or you could be talking about Frank Lloyd Wright. And then isn't it weird that all of a sudden you start getting this information on Frank Lloyd Wright? It's a little spooky, but
Yes.
take the scariness out of it for a second because what I think is happening, and I'm curious how you approach this, is you're right. Clients used to bring you the three-ring binder, and it used to have these, articles and pictures. And then social media became a thing where Pinterest and Instagram, they would send you ideas like, "Hey, I want this," and "Hey, I want this." But as a seasoned, qualified architect, you're like, "No, you don't. We talked about this. You don't want that." How do you have those conversations?
It's tricky because, of course, the whole reason we exist is to do not just what they want, but surprise them with the gift of something they didn't even know they needed through the process of design, discovering that together and giving them exactly what they're asking for and more. And so, yes, navigating I mean, thank you for sending me that image of that kind of like it's a cropped view. I think this is the risk, or I guess the it's a little bit of a trap that people fall into of you know um, seeing the beautiful image and wanting it. And I think I have to enter into this with a lot of empathy and say, look, I get it. Our process though is more holistic than just a cropped image of a pantry. We have to think through the choreography of what it's like to live in a kitchen and be in a house. And yes, of course, we want all the things that you have to have a place in that. But it's so easy to be tempted by these beautiful images that don't have a cohesive, that's what happens is when you get this kind of like, well, I want this, and it's like, well, yeah, but the plan that we've come up with for you through our our tested process, through all the years of doing this, like the plan that we come up for you. I mean, yes, I can take that and I can morph it into fitting within this plan that we've created for you. And so I always like to say it's never a no. It's a yes, we'll look at that. We'll try to integrate that. But I think when if you're a layperson not in the design world, don't, this is not your native tongue, as I like to say, the language of design. It's okay. Like a picture is still worth 1,000 words. It helps connect us to our clients to see what gets them excited. And I like seeing that. I'll never say, no, don't send me that stuff. I want to see it. I mean, we even sometimes have people come to us with plans that they've already sketched out. And what I look at that as a way for me to kind of see through the fog of what them spending the time and energy to try to solve it themselves. And that tells me a lot actually about their commitment to the process. And it's not offensive at all when people come to us with stuff like that. It really helps decode some of because the vocabulary is usually it's not the same. We use a lot of architects are notorious for using a bunch of fancy words to talk about simple stuff. And so that really helps kind of close the gap in the language too for us.
But Nick, isn't it kind of the equivalent of going to WebMD before you go to the doctor and then telling the doctor about your findings?
Yeah, a little bit, yes. I mean, I get it. I mean, everyone's just trying to express what they're wanting out of the deal. And so it again, like it's not offensive to me to have people kind of interject. Our clients are, I mean, they're actually quite sophisticated. And it's just, sometimes it takes us a minute to kind of get on the same page about things. But I mean, that's to be expected. It's my job to ask a lot of questions and actually listen to those answers so that we can come to the solutions together. And so yes, I in a way it's like if you bring me it's like I think of it like you're just kind of helping show us what you think is a way to do it, or I try to look at it as a guide to us, an entry point into the process. Sometimes it helps us hit the ground running. Sometimes it's very quickly set aside and we move on with a different solution. But yeah, I think um, it, I think if I was a physician and someone came with their malady already diagnosed, I would be more offended than I am if somebody comes with a plan that they've already sort of sorted out. Like it's not quite the same.
I bring this up because I'm fascinated. I've been looking at what you do. I've been looking at the work that the firm produces, and it's magnificent. It's really fantastic, and we're going to be
Thank
getting
you.
into that. One of the things that I like to do on the show is to talk about methods, means, practical application, to understand how you do what you do. Because in my experience with having these conversations, over 600 plus at this point, I have found that there really are no two architects, designers, interior designers, landscape architects that are exactly the same. They really aren't. You think differently, you approach things differently. And it leads me into this. You mentioned language. I've heard hundreds of times that architecture is a language. I've never heard anyone fully describe what interior design is. And so I think that's more of a dialect, personal opinion. But I feel like, and I want your take on this, I feel like we're in an era, especially far enough removed from the pandemic, where people have kind of gone to some sense of normalcy again in regards to how they live. But there's almost this change blindness, this gradualism that's taken place, where people forgot to some degree how dysfunctional their homes were, which is sort of led back to, and I call this the silly season. So we're recording this in September. Starting now, drips and drabs, you're going to get all of the trends. October, it's going to speed up. November, it's really going to be pressed. And then December, Katie bar the door, it's everywhere. It's all of the things that people are like, oh, this is what you're going to see in 2026, or this is what you're never going to see again in 2026. And there are a lot of things that are usually the same on both lists, which leads one to believe that this is just BS from the very beginning. Ultimately, it comes back to really talented creatives who can listen and analyze their clients to understand what they're not saying as well as what they are saying, and provide them with solutions to make their lives better. That's pretty much the definition of it. But I'm curious in your take, is it a language or is it a philosophy?
Oh, that is really a deep. So we're going to go deep here. So it is both, 100%. It's both. So one of the things that we talk a lot about with each other in our office and with our clients too. I mean, not everybody wants to go as deep into I mean, it's pretty nerdy stuff, what gets us excited. But ultimately, it is a balance of beauty on one end of the spectrum and logic on the other end of the spectrum. So that is what architecture is. If it were purely beauty, it would be like a Hollywood movie set that looks great on camera, but it doesn't actually work. It's super frustrating because things aren't where they're supposed to be and it's just not right. But it looks great from that one camera angle. That's pure beauty. If it's pure logic, I mean, it's as if um, everything's extremely efficient. You end up with no waste. It's all, very functionally driven, but it doesn't have a soul. And so we have to find the balance between those two ends of the spectrum between logic and beauty. So I think that what we think about all the time is this business of talking about what we do as creating an atmosphere, an environment, as opposed to creating an object. So experiences and atmospheres are what we're trying to create. And yes, you end up with this physical thing that's trying to support that atmosphere. But ultimately, we start with experience and emotion, and find a way. That's the end. The means are using material to create the immaterial experience. So I think it's so that's why I say it's both the language and a philosophy. It's a way of looking at the world with sensitivity. I think that's one of our biggest assets as design folk is being sensitive to things that most people experience at an unconscious level. We are forcing that unconscious awareness to the forefront in every way, and using it, to our advantage, but also to solve problems. So it's like making it not only beautiful, but also very functional. So, and then the language you mentioned, I'm not really sure how I think to quote you, you said, not sure how interior design fits into it. I think interior design and architecture are, um, they're two sides of the same coin in a way, because, and if you think about it, so I actually had a teacher in undergraduate school that said that I was born 100 years too late. And when I was, an 18-year-old kid, I had no idea what that meant. But now I understand. I mean, I would love to have been around 100 years ago. So in 1925, there was not an architecture profession and an interior design profession and a landscape profession. And, it was just design. And so we really like the philosophy, and part of why we've designed our business around this is we have architecture studios, we have landscape architecture studios, and we have interior design studios. So it's all design, and they're just different aspects of the environment that we want to create for people. So as far as interior design versus architecture, it's not versus, it's like, and they're always together to create the atmosphere. And of course, there's all sorts of different ways to do that. I think, that's why we say we're style agnostic, because it really is not really about style at all. It's more about creating atmospheres that do the things that we need them to do for our clients.
I love the debate and or because I feel like times are changing a little bit. And I feel like it's not what I feel. It's what I'm seeing. It's a perceptual adaptation, perhaps. But the more conversations I have, and I'll give you an example. So last week I was at CEDIA Expo CIX in Denver. It was really interesting to me that, and I'm not saying this to be negative, I'm saying this because I view it as an opportunity. I didn't see any architects there.
Mm.
I didn't see any interior designers there. I didn't see any landscape architects there. I saw integrators. I saw AV techs. I saw the future of home technology through presentation of brands and those who actually do the installs. And it was really it was eye-opening to me because we talk about the and or, and I'll give you a concrete example of how I see an or, and then we can talk about the and. Kitchens. In the last, I want to say it started for me, I started noticing it in 2017 in Southern California, and you cannot avoid it now. Kitchens are just no longer a high-end version of appliances situated on a triangle where it's a singularly functional space. Kitchens are multifunctional, multifaceted. And what's interesting to me is you now have as an offshoot or a byproduct, you've got the outdoor kitchen. I am seeing more and more interior designers being tasked with adding an outdoor kitchen to rival the indoor kitchen on the outdoor spaces, which used to belong exclusively to landscape architects.
Mm.
Landscape architects chose not to get involved in this. I don't want to deal with appliances. I don't want to deal with all of the UL regulations. I don't want to deal with, making something interior designed. I deal with plant material and I deal with spaces and I deal by making that conscious decision, by making that choice, they have eliminated 100, 150, 200,000, $250,000. There was an architect in Houston years ago who showed me his first ever air conditioned outdoor kitchen. That's not so uncommon anymore. But landscape architects chose to relinquish that space to the interior designer or the architect. There are other things taking place right now, like, for example, being at CEDIA and seeing all of this home tech that fits into the interior enclosure, the envelope of a residential space. It's being relinquished to others. So it feels to me like the industry is changing, but part of the way that you compensate for that is by having a multifaceted uh, firm that deals with every aspect, with every silo.
That's right. No, so I think that is one of the aspects that is hard to stay on top of as a design professional. I mean, I would put lighting, anything that has to do with tech, I would put in that category of like, look, I mean, it's great to be, I think ultimately architects are, for the most part, generalists about things like systems in a house. I know just enough to be dangerous about, um, dimming systems and things that will run roller shades. And, I understand, again, we're kind of trying to be brand agnostic, but I know there's a couple of leaders in that, of course. And so we can talk to our clients about that. I mean, um, our our ability to stay on top of that stuff as it changes year to year. I mean, you mentioned how quickly it changes. Um, it's really that's a big challenge. It's a big mountain, and there are architects, of course, and interior designers, and all sorts of people that like. I mean, it's great to be specialists in something, but you kind of have to pick your area of expertise, that you want to be on top of because everything else, I mean, it's a moving target constantly. And so, I think it's all about time. How much time can you spend to become an expert on the latest thing that goes on the wall to control all the things, or the app that goes with it. It's like I know those things exist, but it's really hard. But I don't know that it's necessarily a conscious relinquishing as much as it is just kind of like, do I want to ride that tidal wave constantly and stay on top of it, or allow specialists, guide my clients towards people who are that is truly their specialty. They've been to the all the conventions, they know all the latest things and the best practices, and can be part of our team to help educate our clients on their options and what are the costs associated with it and that sort of thing. But as an architect generalist, it's I'm okay with like bringing that teammate onto the team and helping my clients build their team. But I'm interested enough in it that I kind of like, being able to talk about it, but also like, boy, it to your point, it's changing constantly, and it's getting the ecosystem of that is ever more complex, and how these systems talk to each other. That is a full-time job for someone, but yeah, we like to have those people at the table for sure. But I'm okay not being that person.
You're listening to my conversation with SHM Architects Nick McWhirter. We'll be right back. If you've listened to the show for any amount of time, you've heard me say this, that the most important word in the design industry is service. Product is important, price is important, selection is important, but stellar service is the premier idea that can make all the difference in the success of a project, any project. How design professionals like you demand great service and your favorite brands in one place with expert, knowledgeable, and non-commission sales professionals. It's really important. It means that their only incentive is your satisfaction. Pacific Sales, Kitchen and Home, a Best Buy company, has just that with over 60 years of experience in Southern California. Pacific Sales is your destination for exploration, advice, and inspiration. Now, you have the Pacific Sales Kitchen and Home team to help you and offer their Pro Rewards program, which is a trade program unlike any you have experienced before. Earn 3% in Best Buy gift cards, e-gift cards, or 2.5% in rewards checks for every qualified and delivered sale. In addition to special trade pricing, exclusive offers, access to exclusive special events, and so much more than I could possibly tell you about here. And the cherry on top is access to exclusive builder trade incentives from top brands and the stellar service, again, from a company that has been serving the industry for over 60 years. Terms and conditions apply to the Pro Rewards program and builder trade incentives. So visit a Pacific Sales expert at a showroom today for full details and to learn how you can unlock additional savings and benefits. Don't miss out on the opportunity to work with the best of the best. Visit Pacific Sales Kitchen and Home today and elevate your projects to new heights. I am absolutely thrilled to welcome a new sponsor to the program. First of all, because I love new sponsors to the program, but also because this one is something that each and every one of you has been looking for. Loam AI is a company that has its roots in technology and engineering with a passion for high-quality content development. Listen, designers, architects, landscape architects, shelter industry brands, you know that time is the one thing we can't create, right? So how would you like the power of AI in content development, programming, that allows you to design instead of editing videos, scripting, and writing your content for social media? Loam AI was created by a team of engineers with a passion for creative content development. This is text to video, so you describe it and Loam AI creates it. It's really amazing. You're going to have to check this out. And they make it simple to change content sizes for different social media outlets. How tired are you of trying to resize the content that you create or send it out to a freelancer and keep getting the recharges because it has to be put in different sizes? It's a pain, and Loam AI fixes that. It's easy to use, has US-based support if you need it. Let me rephrase. The support is here in the United States if you need it. Stunning images, realistic voices, built-in captions, and it's simple to use. Sign up and try it for free without a credit card at loam-ai.com. I'll say that again, LOME-AI.com. Simple, inexpensive, text to video, harnessing the power of AI to grow your firm beautifully. It makes one wonder what the firm looks like in 5 or 10 years from now. It's funny.
Sure.
I'm in a number of forums and groups, and I just love, for the most part, especially when the topic of AI comes up, just sort of
Mm.
sitting back and watching the show, like with the popcorn, just watching the conversation. It is fascinating to me how the Dunning-Kruger effect is so pervasive in social media, where you have some people who will tell you exactly what artificial intelligence is when they know absolutely nothing about it. And then you'll have others who are just like complete Luddites and they want nothing to do with the conversation. And they'll say, well, I'm not going to lose my client. Word of mouth is my number one source. I get referrals. My clients love me, and I'm never going to lose my clients to AI. And it's true. That is absolutely true. They are not going to lose their clients to AI. And that's because they're going to lose their clients to other creatives, designers, architects who know how to utilize and harness the tools of AI. That's
Right.
true. That's
Right.
true. And I've been it's funny because like at events I'll get into these conversations and I'll just be like attacked, like you don't know anything. And I get it. It's a defense mechanism. But I am curious, how are you using artificial intelligence tools? How are you using projecting ideas and maybe using it to identify client true needs instead of spoken needs because there is that social media influence and it's a bias that makes people think they need or want something. It's the Arc Digest principle. It'll make people think that they need or want something, that just because the celebrity has it, that doesn't mean that they use it. It just means that they had more dollars and cents and could afford to buy it and put it into their
Yeah.
spot.
And it made a very pretty picture. Yeah, exactly. Listen, I think the the story that I will tell about AI for us is that I think you hit the nail on the head when you said the defense mechanism. I mean, and why the defense mechanisms exist is to deal with fear. And I understand there's a fear of being, somehow replaced as a creative person with this kind of soulless computer brain thing that can do exactly what we can do, but better and faster. I mean, of course, yeah, that does on its surface sound terrifying. But I think everybody said the same thing about CAD. It's like, I mean, I learned how to draft in college, right? So why would I learn how to draft on the computer? That's gonna, I don't need to learn that. Well, those people aren't working in the practice anymore, right? Because at some point the stuff just passes you by. I guess the way I wanted to deal with it in our firm is there was this was probably 2 years ago. It was a summer that it seemed like every day I opened the New York Times app, there was a new article about AI. It was kind of when Chat GPT really became a household name. And as I started seeing things pop up on social media that were clearly, um, it was almost like fantasy art, but it was architecture. And I was trying to figure out what it was, and people started talking about this thing called Midjourney. I thought, what is Mid? Is this what is? I need to know about this. What is this? I want to get my hands on it to figure out how are they making these images because they were stunning and beautiful and captivating. And so I said, I think everybody in our office was talking about it. We were thinking about it. And I thought that the best way to deal with the fear associated with it was to just face it head on and create So I grew up Methodist, and the Methodists were all about making committees. So I said, let's make an AI committee to deal to deal with this. So we sat around the table and just talked about um, diving into it and subscribing to a couple of these things and testing it out and seeing if we could break it and seeing where the boundaries were of it. There's always going to be, especially on something that's a cutting edge avant-garde thing, there's going to be like stuff that's probably really good at, and there's probably some rough edges at some point. I wanted to find those. So what we discovered really quickly is that if you don't know the words to use to tell it kind of what you're wanting, if you don't have the vocabulary or the knowledge of architecture and art history to ask it to do, you get kind of this generic blah, I would call it like a neo-modern architecture that's just kind of like, I guess it's like its baseline default thing. And so like I anyway, the came out on the other side of this experimental season, feeling much less scared, and actually quite inspired at discovering this tool that could potentially replace our going on a hunt for images on the internet, on Pinterest, and generating our own images, actually taking photographs of our own work and hybridizing those, blending them to create new stuff that no one else has ever seen before, right? So in a way, it helps become a differentiator for us to be able to offer our clients images that no one else we've never seen them before. No one's ever seen them before. It's really kind of exciting to feel like you've got this tool that helps you speak into existence stuff that no one's ever seen before. That was super exciting to us. So I think that's the story that I wanted to tell about that. I think where are we with it right now? We're looking at it in two different ways, not only from a design process support way, just like Photoshop helps support our design process, just like sketching with a pen and paper helps us support our design process. It's just another tool. And then also, of course, all the business things that AI can do. If it helps me organize my email inbox, I would be grateful to have that assistance. So those are the I mean, we're looking at kind of from two routes at this point, and the committee has expanded to try to get our arms around it.
What were some of the findings? And I asked that because about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, I took a course through MIT because I wanted it was about machine learning and artificial intelligence because I wanted to understand it. Not understand it to the point where I could use it because math is not my friend. So, but what's interesting about it is I kind of learned that basically artificial intelligence has the potential to create a unique and individual calculator for everyone and every industry. If you think about the calculator, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can I do
Yep.
the math myself? Sure, I can. Will it take me a long time? Sure, it will. If I use a calculator, I can find exactly what I need to know in a relatively short amount of time and assure that the results are accurate, right?
Right.
Right now, we're not in a phase where the results are accurate by any stretch, but it's getting better every day. And it does save us a lot of time. What were the findings and how are you applying that?
So the findings for us, so we initially focused really on the text to image
Mm,
capabilities and specifically of the platform Midjourney. Um, the Chat GPT, I will say, has come quite a long way to try to catch up with Midjourney's ability to take just words and generate beautiful images and iterate on those. But our focus in that first phase of our AI committee was really trying to, and then there's a couple of other, really trying to figure out like how do we get what we want out of this? How do we get it to do what we're actually asking it to do, and developing strategies to create prompts that work for us. One of the things that works the best for us is to take at least one image and then add a text prompt to it to generate something interesting. The other thing, I already mentioned this, but the idea of taking multiple images and blending them, and you can do that process and add a text prompt as well. Having a working or better than working knowledge of art and architecture history to be able to talk about styles and say, one of my favorite things that I ever did with it was actually I didn't come up with this prompt string necessarily the semantics of it, but the idea that what if Carlos Scarpa and Zaha Hadid collaborated to create an executive desk, and it's like it knows these luminary names, these like household names of designers. If you go way too esoteric with it, it has a harder time. Like it doesn't really know. But if you say, Frank Lloyd Wright and Zaha, or Carlos Scarpa and Frank Lloyd Wright, if you use these kind of like big names in art and architecture history, ask them to collaborate to make something, it is mind-blowingly interesting. Like to the point where it's like, I mean, how is it doing that? I would love to be able to look under the hood and, and how is it casting the light just right and casting shadows on all these reflected surfaces and things like it's got to be making a 3D mesh and like lighting it and right or like what it can't just be pixels. There's space there. There's an object there that has dimension to it. It understands that somehow. And it's truly fascinating. It's kind of like just watching magic happen. I had the same experience though when I was in college and I was in the dark room and I was developing my own negatives and making prints. Like you put that, you do the exposure and you put the thing in the chemicals and you shake it and this image appears. It's the same feeling. It's of just magic happening before your eyes. But I mean, but they're the same. It's just a tool to create something beautiful. It's just a different process. But that's how we're looking at it. It's not something that's going to replace us. It's something that's going to help us and inspire us. And it's just another tool in the toolbox.
The flip side of that, and I want your take on this, the flip side of that is sort of the nefarious, uh, evil side of AI. Insofar that every one of those images, the reason why, Midjourney and its counterparts, the lighting is so good is because it's taken the imagery of hundreds of thousands of photographs that were incredibly well lit because somebody paid a photographer to shoot it and light it and make it
Right.
amazing. So it
Yep.
understands that. And then you get into this idea like if Zaha Hadid and Frank Lloyd Wright combined to create a piece of furniture, a table or a chair, how much of that is intellectual property associated with each one of those individual creatives? And I ask that in context because architecture is one of those things that is defensible. That is, you can defend an architectural work through intellectual property, which I think is novel. And you know what's interesting too? I have yet to speak to a single architect who says, yes, we have a program in place where we defend our designs. Isn't that fascinating?
That's right. Yeah, no, I think I mean the rules are sort of there, but at the same time, like, and we have seen this. I mean, I drive through neighborhoods in Dallas and look at a house, drive by a house and think, boy, that's an SHM project, right? And kind of from the front, it looks right, and then I kind of get around to the side and around, oh no, we would have never done that roof massing across the back. Is like they kind of got the front facade right, but the behind the scenes stuff just doesn't quite work right. So it's like I know there's copycats. I know people are trying to copy other people's work. And look, I think I'm kind of okay with that because ultimately, like, authenticity is still a value that we believe in. And if you believe in it too, then great. I mean, I really think that it's 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 okay to just focus on doing what we do and doing it well and staying authentic. Ultimately, that intellectual property aspect is it's just it's hard to imagine doing what we do and also having the time to go be the policeman of our intellectual property. There's just not enough hours in the day, I'm afraid. So we keep moving forward.
How has two things, the rise in modern materiality and the intensity of climate change affected the manner in which you design?
Great question. I think we're I like to talk about our work. We like to use the words regionalists. And I think what that really means for us, especially for a practice that has, obviously, we're based in Dallas. We have offices in Savannah and Crested Butte, Colorado. And so those are pretty different climate situations. And so being sensitive to best practices in the places that we're working. I've got a project in Whitefish, Montana. I've leaned extremely heavily on the local the local general contractor and the trades to learn best practices and not just go in guns blazing, say, well, this is the way we do it in Texas. It's got to work up there. I mean, they get 300 inches of snow a year up there. We get, 3 millimeters of ice in Dallas. I mean, it's not the same thing. It's really important for us to be sensitive and open to learning how to do envelopes in a different way in a different climate. But I think what we're really always trying to do, it comes down to authenticity, of course, for us. And we like materials that look like what they actually are. And we need that honesty about the things that we do. So yeah, I mean, whether we're in Savannah or Dallas or Whitefish or wherever we may have projects, I think we're trying to understand the local vernacular, the language, the local dialect, as you used the word dialect earlier. I love that. To understand how to do buildings that are resilient and beautiful and look great for 100 years or more. And the only way to do that is to really understand what local practices are going to help us do that. And local materials too. I've got a project in Scottsdale, Arizona right now there's all sorts of great places to get breeze block for a project, but there's actually a place right up the road from the job site that actually they cast their own. It's like a local breeze block manufacturer. We're going to use that instead of hauling it in from someplace in Europe or whatever. I'd much rather use stuff that's right there, that's in the neighborhood. That makes it much more rooted to the place.
Yeah, and I love that term regionalism because it's not a clickbaity term. It's something that you have to. If you're in Southern California, or if you're in the Rockies in Colorado, you have to understand passive home technology. You just have to. You don't have a choice anymore because
Yep.
wildfires are not going to go away. They're not going to stop. If you're in Savannah, Georgia, you have to understand wind events and water events. You just have to. It's no
Yep.
longer an option. If you're in Dallas, you have to understand uh, power grid reliability. You have to understand wind related events. You have to understand what it means to build a structure on active soil. There are just things that you have to understand. An active soil, it's one of those tricky things too. If you wind up getting a massive deluge of rain in one particular year and it completely swells, and then the next year you have a drought again and it all cracks and sinks, you have to have a very skilled architect who uses tools of engineering to know how these things are going to happen and how it's going to work. If you go from 60-70% humidity in the summer to 15% in the winter. I bring this up because there are people who will say, well, an architect's an architect, and if you work in the United States and you're an architect, you can work anywhere. That's just patently not true. You have to have regional knowledge. You have to have a specialty and an understanding for how it works.
Yep. Yeah, I totally agree. I think the place where we really, as I mentioned, leaning on local for our practice, since it's almost all single family custom residential, there will be a local general contractor and local trades that we learn from on every project. I mean, that learning aspect of what we do never ends for us. And so of course we do our homework, and we don't want to show up just completely without bringing anything to the table necessarily, but it's always a posture of openness and curiosity for us about where we can do things in the smart way and work with nature instead of working against it. Again, with the philosophy towards what can we do? What can we do now? Measure twice, cut once. I actually have that sign. There's a sign in my little curio cabinet back there that says measure twice, cut once. How can we measure twice, cut once ahead on paper to think through this, to make this house last for generations? Our view on sustainability really begins. Of course, yes, we have to be very knowledgeable and we want to be regionalist in our approach, but it really begins with a beautiful house that people love is sustainable, because they're not going to want to tear it down. They might want to tweak some stuff. They might want to change the color of the kitchen cabinets, and 10 years or 15 years. Totally understand that. But the light in the kitchen is going to be beautiful because we've thought about what light looks like in that space all year round, wherever the sun is, depending on the season. We thought about a lot, it doesn't cost more money to line stuff up. We thought about how um, uh, uh, the geometry of the thing works and the choreography of living in that space works. And so, when people love it, that is the true definition of sustainability because it's going to last a really long time because people want to keep it.
Yeah, and with that, I kind of want to jump to project review, if you wouldn't mind. This is one of my favorite things to do, is to have this conversation about practical application and then to actually go look at the work and talk it through and kind of explore a little bit because I guarantee
Okay.
you there are things that I don't see, especially not being there, just looking at imagery. And the first one I wanted to start with is it Lupton Drive?
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Leptin. Uh-huh.
Lupton, and I'm okay. I'm gonna guess now because I have no idea. I'm gonna say it's either Savannah or Dallas. I'm gonna go with Dallas.
Yeah, I want to make sure it's because we have multiple projects on on the same street. So I want to make sure. So you're on our website
I
and
am,
you're looking at, let's
and
see,
I'll tell you while you're looking for it, the thing that caught my eye initially, just because it was so interesting, is the indoor-outdoor living room where the guy chose to park his Cobra.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And by the way, I shouldn't say that. It could be her Cobra.
Yeah, so actually that is a garage space, but a lot of times we have this ability to pull through a garage or to open it completely up, and we call that like the party barn feature of the house, So um yeah,
And Nick, by
it
the way,
always helps to have a really cool car parked in the driveway in our photos,
I'm
by the way.
kind of joking with you a little bit about it being an indoor-outdoor living room. I know it's the garage. I mean, clearly, but if you look at the paneling and you look at the lighting, I'm sorry, but that's not a garage. That's an
Yeah,
indoor-outdoor living room.
yeah, no, you're right. You're right.
So I love this place for a couple of reasons. First of all, was this a new build or was this a remodel?
This is a new build. Yeah.
What would you call that? Modern colonial revival?
Yeah, I think this is a really good example of our definition of transitional. So our definition as the in SHM we say transitional is traditional forms. So it has a roof form that is not flat or invisible. It's got this hip roof thing going on, and it's got a gable on front. So it looks like a house. It's very traditional in form, but the details are a little more contemporary. So we've kind of edited away some of the filigree of more traditional architecture and curated a collection of details that are perhaps a little so. I love the interwar modern period. This is the time between the First and Second World Wars, because some historians call that style, that time period, where it was like kind of like proto-modernist. It was like before we went completely to white boxes, with no roofs and big pieces of glass and stuff. They called it stripped classicism. So I would say this house is kind of like a stripped classicist house. It's very proportionally driven. It's very symmetrical. It's got this great balance across the front facade. There's elements like the gables and the the Greek returns and things like that on the little dormers there that are very traditional. But then you look at other aspects like the headers over the windows. That's just a soldier course of brick. It's very simplified. I mean, it doesn't have profile and cornices and all. I mean, there's a few little moves of profile there at the very top, but it's essentially a really simplified classical design. And yes, some sort of revival, traditional revival style. I guess it would fit within that umbrella pretty well.
And I do.
If we took the shutters off, it would be even more like it's like these are the little things that like I always say we talk about like the spectrum from modern or contemporary to traditional, and this transitional is this in between zone. It's like if we took those shutters off, it would just push that needle a little bit more modern. If we took the dormers off, it would push it a little bit more modern. If we had a lot more cut stone and like, profiles and fussiness, then it would shift that needle back the other way. So it's just a fun game we like to play with style. And again, if we say we're style agnostic, we have to like all the styles. And so that means we have to know all the language of all the styles and do our research. And that's why we have hundreds and hundreds of books. I think we had, I don't know what we're up to at this point, but we have a huge library of books about dead architects, and use those as reference material to go to original sources in order to represent authentic styles when we're asked to do that. So
There's a couple of things I mean, there's a lot of things about this project that caught my attention that I really like, and one of them was this playful approach to modern versus traditional. Just when you look at the elevation at the front of the house, where you have a singular outdoor fixture, and there are no shutters on the bottom row of windows, but instead there are shutters on the door, which just it's just the manner in which, combined with the symmetry, and I think that's why putting that singular light in the middle, the singular fixture in the middle, as opposed to off on the sides, which you easily could have done. But I just think that the beauty is in the simplicity and the playful style of this, and I absolutely love it. What is interesting to me too, from a color palette, is this is the most black and white home, literally, that I think I've seen in a long time. And I absolutely love it because it's not just black and white for the sake of black and white. It looks as though everything was intended and everything was personally done that way, down to the theater. It just seems like everything was so intentional.
So that is, I think, the secret sauce to all of this effort that we're trying to do to create atmosphere, um, uh, to create things and leave, make the be good neighbors, make the street more beautiful than when we found it. But if we're really careful, I think care means taking our time to find just the right balance of what you say. Black and white is, I mean, it doesn't get any more high contrast than black and white. I mean, those are the ends of the spectrum of values that we have to play with, right? The gray scale all the way in between is great, but like if you choose, okay, I'm just going to do white and black, boy, finding that balance is really important. It's kind of like it puts a spotlight on the importance of balance. And so, it's like our process involves lots of experimentation. And I guarantee that we probably looked at a scheme that had the shutters on the bottom too, and it was just too much. And so to get the balance right, we took them away. So it's all about being a good editor, and starting off, with a process that really does it. We didn't start with the facade on this project or any project. We always start from the inside out. So it is symmetrical, especially in this front elevation, but I promise the rest of the project has balanced asymmetry, because that's what we end up with when we work from the inside out. But it always starts with plan for us and diagramming layout of space, and that's all driven by furniture first and foremost. So understanding furniture and scale of rooms is what then we wrap architecture around those rooms. But yeah, no, it's a fun one. And it is a really good example of that more transitional approach.
Question for you, and this is one of the areas I wanted to chat with you about. Talk to me about the lighting plan, interior lighting plan, because I don't see it. I see the featured lighting. I see the featured sconces. Like if you're looking in the
Yeah.
living room, I'm going to,
Well, I have a confession to make to you, and that
and I
is
know what's coming. Go
our
ahead.
photographer shoots natural light and then photoshops out all the cans. So I feel
Okay.
terrible for our lighting designer friends, because they the sensitivity and careful placement of all the recessed lighting fixtures is a little bit invisible. But honestly, I think they think they've done their job the best when the recessed lighting is kind of invisible, especially when you're in the space. They don't really want you to see it. They want you to see the effect of it, but they don't want you to see the fixtures themselves. So in a way, it kind of reinforces the ultimate desire, which is for them to be invisible.
Okay. So, Nick, thank you for bringing that up. I'm going to challenge you on this. And I'm going to challenge you on it because I think it's doing a disservice. And hear me out. By the way, I could be totally full of crap, and you can just that's fine. You could say
No,
that.
I can already tell you that I think I'm going to agree with this premise, but please go on.
I believe wholeheartedly that part of the uniqueness and part of the secret sauce and part of the true talent goes into I view a home, and this is not a unique view unto just my own, but I think a home is a machine. A house is a machine for living, right? Every system, every procedure that is designed, every piece of working machinery or mechanisms within a home. And I feel like a lighting plan, especially now, is one of the most important things that architects and designers lend to a project. And I say lend, not give, because it's not yours anymore, but it's not theirs either. It goes with the project, and it can be easily changed. But if you don't demonstrate what was done, I mean, look, we've gone from 6-inch cans to 4-inch cans to 3-inch cans to 2-inch cans, and in some cases, last week I saw these 1-inch integrated LED devices that are just absolutely incredible. And the time is spent on every aspect of it. And I feel like, especially now, because we are so dependent on Wi-Fi network power, that it's a disservice not to see where it is and how it works within the construct of the how one uses a space. And that could be totally silly or basic. I don't know. I'll get your take on that.
Well, I think it's a really good point. I think it's I'm gonna kind of answer the question from a different angle, I guess, than maybe what you're driving at. I think ultimately, for us at least, our goal in documenting the work and the way that the approach from a photography standpoint in order to document our portfolio is if the and I would counter my counter argument to your statement about the house is a machine for living, because I know who that came from. And at the time that was really important, actually, that because up until that point, like in the context of architecture history, like that was a kind of important moment of distinction, right? Corbusier talking about that. So but I think our counter argument to that is, yes, I mean, this is the logic and beauty argument, okay? This is and I would say it, yes, and a house also is a piece of art. So it is a machine. I mean, at its most basic thing, it has to do certain things functionally to, to have a logical reason for existing, but it also must be beautiful. And Corbusier actually also said this. He said, yes, but mon chéri, it has to be beautiful, right? So, I mean, the beauty is this kind of mysterious, ethereal thing that it's really hard to define. It's easy to count light fixtures and just think about very carefully, like how many lumens they put out, and what the optics are, what's the beam spread, how many do I need to light this furniture group, whatever. It's easy to kind of be very quantitative about that. But what we're trying to do is be very qualitative about how we tell the story of why we do what we do, and the quality of light that's just kind of oozing in from all sides of these spaces and bouncing around inside this box. All we're doing as architects, we're just making boxes and being very cute about how we let the sunlight in. I mean, that's what architecture really ultimately is. If you just look at it from a quantitative standpoint, it's just a dumb box with holes in it that letting in light. The quality, though, we all know that architecture is so much more than that, right? So the photographs for us are kind of trying to be aspirational. Okay, we know that we have to have can lights, and obviously they Photoshop out the HVAC registers too, which we spend so much time getting centered perfectly on the window, and or integrated into the floor grills. We have photos of that stuff. I just want you to know, Josh, we do have photos of that stuff, and we show our clients that. But for the website, It's trying to be this aspirational, kind of ethereal, touchy-feely, mysterious beauty thing. That's what we're trying to use as the magnet to draw people in. And then, of course, I'll show you the pictures of the HVAC grill that's hidden in the wood floor. I'll be happy to send you that photo set too.
No, Nick, it's not that I'm a huge fan of fixtures and can lights and registers. It's not that. It's really not. It's it's that, and I find this really interesting too, this idea of form follows function. I believe that definitions, the vernacular, we're talking a lot about language, and I believe the vernacular changes. And Corbusier, if he were to magically rise from the dead and reappear and have this conversation now, I think the conversations would be so vastly different. I think they'd have to be because of how we live differently. I Last year or the year before, I toured Price Tower in Bartlesville, which is not too far from where I am in Tulsa. One of the things, actually, a couple of the observations that I noticed, Frank Lloyd Wright, world-renowned architect. I mean, you don't get much more famous than Frank Lloyd Wright. His kitchens in some of the apartments in that particular building, horrendous. Not a 90 degree in the building. Not one. Not a single 90 degree in any of these kitchens. You could touch both sides of the kitchen. Didn't have to be that way. But it was. And that's the manner in which he designed. I don't feel like if he was a contemporary architect today working and doing what he was doing, aside from the Usonians, I don't know that much of what he designed at the time would be preferential today. But what he did was so avant-garde and so groundbreaking that it gave way to where we are now and what we do now, right? It's a path. And
Agreed.
that's the only reason I feel that way. Like I was having this conversation at CEDIA last week about imagine if someone was producing a car, but then they Photoshop certain parts out of the car when, you know, in
They
the
do that, by the way. I mean, when you're looking at the marketing stuff, I mean, photographs are lies. That's important to acknowledge. That was the other
I
thing I was
love
going to say that
that.
I forgot to say. I mean, there is the real thing that we can perceive with our little cameras that are built into our heads,
Yeah.
and then everything else is a lie. That's all. And so I think it's okay. I enter into the conversation philosophically speaking about photographs with a different as an amateur, uh, very obsessive photographer on the side. That ultimately, like there, as soon as you click the shutter, it's not real anymore, and that's okay. That's the whole point of it. I mean, the reason that we want to create photography or images like this at all is that it is not real, and then we can change it and we can edit it. And as long as photographs have been generated, that's been true. So in the darkroom, you could fudge stuff too, you know. And so now we have pixels to fudge. But I understand. I think there is a level of dishonesty about that. That yes, I think I definitely see your point. I would love to be able to show people how careful we are about lining the different things that have to happen in a ceiling. How careful we are with that reflected ceiling plan and how we treat it as a graphic design exercise. And how long it takes actually to take the floor plan, furniture plan, reflected ceiling plan, HVAC plan, lighting plan, speaker AV plan, structural, and layer all those drawings on top of each other in different colors in a PDF so we can find the places where we have these clashes that where we know we can't put that can actually, or we can't run that HVAC route. We're trying to catch that stuff on paper so that we get it right and it's near perfect as we can get it in the actual built thing. And then we take a picture of it and Photoshop all that work out. So it is a little bit, yeah, I agree with you. I see your point. That's why I said early on, I could kind of see where that was going. And I said, I already can tell you I'm going to agree with this. But at the same time, like the reason that we kind of we let the photographer do that is so that we can focus on I mean, there's something about, so if you click on like the University Boulevard, it's just this is a very kind of neo or like a proto-modernist project. And that kitchen image with it's again a lot of black and white in this one, but there for that steel band around the top of the room that becomes the head of the window and this kind of room divider up in the ceiling plane for that to really sing, that whole ceiling plane needs to be this white rectangle. And I would love this. I would love this to show you the raw image of it, but at the same time, it's like we get the one shot on the website, so let's use the one that's the purest, most aspirational distillation of the concept, which is that. That's what it is.
And that's fair. And that's fair. And by the way, my purpose for bringing it up isn't to point out something that's wrong. It's to understand. And that makes perfect sense to me. It really does. It really does.
The beauty, one of my the favorite things that I tell people about my job is actually there's very few right or wrong answers. I mean, there's a set of rules that we have to follow and constraints that we have to be aware of, codes we have to follow. There's some rules, of course, there's boundaries, but for the most part, there's not one right way to do any of this. And that's actually freeing in a way. It's terrifying on one hand, but it's also very freeing.
I get that. I get that. Hey, just quick question. University Boulevard. And by the way, to those listening, I get it. It's a podcast and you can't see what I can see, but check the show notes for a link and you can go to the portfolio page. If we're looking at University Boulevard and you go down to the outdoor area over the fireplace, is that two TVs?
I'm getting there. Stand by.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Two TVs on top of one another, I guess, so that they could watch two different games at the same time when
Okay.
they're out on the back patio.
It's a great use of space.
Yes, I'm not a huge TV on every wall person, but I understand. I mean, so we try to integrate them in a way that is composed and proportional and try to approach it like that as best we can. One of my tricks that I like to do where I have to have I mean, when the TV's off, it's a big black rectangle. So if the backdrop that it's on is also dark, then it reduces that contrast between the two. The big black rectangle when it's turned off and the wall that it's on. So that's why a lot of projects I try to get not black necessarily, but a darker backdrop to the TV surface so that it's kind of more integrated, at least from a color standpoint, onto the surface that it's mounted to.
Well, I'll tell you one of the things that I saw last week was, and I hate to keep going back to this, but you know how when you go someplace new, you like when you go to AIA, you come back, it's like, you will not believe what I learned.
Oh, you're so inspired. Yeah, you have all these great ideas. Yeah, no, that's okay.
The LED walls
Yeah.
that replace traditional television and serve
Yes.
as not only don't you there's negative end or infinity edges to it, so you don't see the edges, but that the whole thing turns into something visible. So if you wanted to project the same wall color
Yes.
and have it just
Or
come
art
or art
yeah. Yep.
or anything else
Or
you
make it look
wanted.
like a window or make it, I mean, the possibilities are so exciting and endless. Exactly. No, um I'm excited to have the opportunity to do one of those in one of our projects. Haven't gotten to do it yet, but
It's very cool. It's very cool. But I love what you do. And Nick, I'm so appreciative. You know what's funny? I hate this. I didn't even get into your love of smoked meats or your as a music fan. There's so much more for us to talk about next time. So
we'll look
I
forward to it.
appreciate the time. Thank you.
It's been fun. Thank you so much, Josh. Nice to meet you. Let's do it again.
The Design Hardware Showroom is a space where specifiers can go and find an incredible selection of high-end faucets, luxury tile, natural stone, wood floors, and bespoke hardware, and so much more. Select products are presented in a holistic manner, strategically arranged to stimulate creativity and transition your vision from the conceptual stage to a fully realized space. You will find everything you're looking for, even the products by brands you didn't know you didn't know. Surprise and delight. Am I right? All under one roof on 3rd Street in Los Angeles, just up the street from the Grove. Conveniently located, free parking available. Stop by to find inspiration, collect samples, get expert advice, and tackle everything on your specification list all in one place. Visit them online at designhardware.com, at Design Hardware and Flooring on the socials, or in the real world, 6053 West 3rd Street in Los Angeles. Nick, thank you for the time and conversation. And thank you for listening. If you like this episode, please share it with a friend or colleague who loves design and architecture like you do. Subscribe to Convo by Design wherever you get your favorite podcasts, and continue the conversation on Instagram at Convo by Design with an X. Keep those emails coming, please, with guest suggestions, show ideas, and locations where you'd like to see the podcast. Convo by Design at outlook.com. Thank you to my partner sponsors, TimberTech, the AZEK Company, Pacific Sales, Best Buy, Loam AI, and Design Hardware. These companies support the shelter industry, so please give them an opportunity on your next project. Thanks again for listening. Until next time, be well, stay focused, and rise above the chaos.